Hi, I'm Billy Cline with YourNewDoor.com. I said before that I wanted to help, and I think about this a lot. I saw something earlier on social media that says, what advice would you give to your younger self? And then I saw someone else post, how much time have you got? And I chuckled when I read that, and it's something that I think about quite a bit. What advice would I give to my younger self? The biggest piece of advice that I would give to my younger self is start sooner. There's really no bad time to start. They say the best time to plant an oak tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So that's kind of why I'm doing this, videoing and chronicling my experience and my journey, bumping into other great entrepreneurs and helpful people who are on their journey. But the more I thought about that question, the more I realized that time is really the most valuable asset, the most valuable resource that any of us have, and yet it's the biggest thing that any of us waste on a day-to-day basis. I catch myself constantly wasting time on social media. It's something that's really important to me, and something that I have written down to cut out. I know it's important. There's a lot of good information on there. It's how a lot of us get our news anymore, but there are healthy limits, that should be placed on that. So the advice I would have given my younger self and anyone out there is start from where you're at. Be intentional. Be where your feet are. Use your time in your car. This is a really big one for me. Use your time in your car when you're traveling between home and your office, or between job sites. If you're in the trades and you're still in a van, you're doing everything. You're selling, you're installing, you're running your company at night. All these things. Your car is literally a time machine when you put that against the time that you spend in it, and what you could be learning or doing in the time you're driving around, learning how to do something you don't know. One of the things that I started doing about 4 years ago was listening to podcasts. I have an iPhone, and on my iPhone, it's got this little purple tab that I had seen for years. There's tons of stuff that comes natively on our iPhones that we probably never even looked at. But I clicked on it one day, and it said podcast. So I was scrolling through there. And one of the first podcasts that I found that I listened to was kind of motivational. The guy was a real estate guy mostly, but he had a lot of motivational and thinking people on his podcast. People like, I think he had Les Brown, Lou Holtz, people like that. And it really got my juices flowing in a way that it made me start to want to invest more time in learning, invest more time in reading, invest time in myself to try and be someone that was more well-rounded. I heard someone say one time, and it really stuck with me, and it has become one of my why factors, right? Like why I do what I do, why I'm continually striving to learn, why I'm continuing to improve upon myself in both my business and personal and professional life. And the concept was, what happens if I die and go to heaven and God introduces me to the man that I could have been, or the man that I should have been? And that scares the crap out of me. One of the things that scared me the most was the thought of dying and going to heaven and God introducing me to the man, the husband, the father, the leader that I could have been or that I should have been. And that all kind of starts with self-development and me realizing that I was wasting a lot of time. I mean, how many times do you need to hear the Beatles play on the radio, or how much time should we really be listening to commentary on Mondays or the whole week really on sports recaps and things like that, things that really don't add any value to our lives or anyone outside or in our sphere of influence, other than just a little bit of joy or whatever, right? So I made it a goal of my own to speed up time in the sense to where you can shrink time, the time that it takes to get from where you're at to where you're going. I also heard Alex Hormozy say a while back that during a conference he asked a woman how much she made, and I want to say it was around $100,000 a year. He asked her how much she wanted to make, and she said $1 million a year, and he said, okay, that's fair. He said, so right now, the difference between what you make in a year and what you want to make in a year is $900,000. He asked her, he said, what is it that's keeping you from making $1 million a year? And she's like, what, I don't know. And he's like, exactly. So what she didn't know is literally costing her $900,000 a year. So we can shrink time, we can shrink our learning curve down by spending more time listening to people who are smarter than us, listening to specialists about certain things, listening to books, listening to podcasts on people who are in business in something similar to you. There's not a lot of people who are in similar business to me, so I listen to a lot of people like Chris Yano. He's in the he's a digital marketing expert that does a lot for heat and air, plumbing, electrical, stuff like that. But all the principles and people he has on there are business principles, and they're timeless, and they will transfer to any business or any trade. So spend time listening to people who are already where you're looking to go. Spend time going to conferences, shows and events that are set up for blue collar and trades. If you own your own business, this is a great way to, the very first event I ever went to was last April. Actually, it was the second, but it was really the first one where I went with an intention. It was called Pantheon, and it was put on by Service Titan. It's a big event that they put on every year. They have a lot of great speakers, a lot of great breakout sessions and keynotes. Last year, their keynote at the end was Magic Johnson. But my attitude when I left home to go to this was, I'm certain I'm just going to hear a lot of the same stuff that I hear in podcasts that I've been listening to, which in and of itself was a little bit correct. However, I way miscalculated the impact that networking and being around other people who are going through the same stuff as you, who have already gone through some of the same things that you're going through, who are beyond where you're going. Getting around those people and rubbing elbows and connecting and networking with those people is really where the value lies in these types of events. Meeting people who are in the thick of it where you're at, people who have already gone through that leg of the journey that you're on and come out the other side. They've got so many great ideas that they can help you look forward through where you're at. They can help you see the edge of the forest, because a lot of times you get stuck and all you can see is the trees. So that's where the value lies in going to the home service events and things like that. Now, you want to be careful about, you'll meet a lot of people and you'll make a lot of friends. You'll come to a point to where a lot of these home service shows really, once you start implementing and doing the things that you're learning at these events and getting a deeper dive, because a lot of times they'll cover a lot of topics, but the topics they cover will be pretty high level stuff, right? Like just kind of getting your feet wet. And then once you start to implement and dive in and get really deep into them, a lot of these events, they just continue to put out a lot of the same information at each of these events. And you can become a professional event hopper and never implement anything. There's tons of people. I can't tell you how many multimillionaires there would be after every event, after everyone went home and implemented 5% of what they learned while they were there. But you continue to see these people at the same events over and over, and a lot of them they make friends, and they really enjoy the whole networking aspect of it, but a lot of them never implement. My friend Cristiano talks about being a 5%er, because only 5% of the people who go to these events will do anything with anything that they learn. So if there's 100 people there, statistics say that only 5 of those people will take any of the stuff home that they've learned while they were there and implement it in their business. And my business is living proof that if you start to implement just one thing at a time, 1% per day improvement over 100 days is 100% improvement. And we started really getting deep into it and implementing things a year ago in April. So right at 18 months ago, 17 months, right after Pantheon. And Dan had just came on board. Dan is my operations manager. And I always had a great vision and would do stuff, but I'm a very big visionary guy. So I'm good for about 40 or 50% of the journey. And then having ADD, the details just kind of fall out of the way for me. So I needed someone like Dan to come along. He's my implementer. So I'll cast my vision. Dan will pick it up. He'll build a system and a process around it, put out the spreadsheets, any of the assets that we need to support that, and then he'll take it from there and then make it to where we can implement it. So it was very important for me to have a Dan. Tommy Mello talks about having Adam, that Adam came in and, helped him move into a kind of a warp drive or a warp speed, because there's only so much that a visionary can do, because there's so many things that need to be done. But hiring Dan was such a big momentum shift for us. It helped us to implement more, because I can continue to have these visions and direction that we're going, and then systematically give those to Dan and have those implemented much faster now. So I like to joke that now our business is growing in dog years, because a dog, 1 year to a human is 7 years to a dog's age, right? So our business is growing in dog years, maybe even more. I don't know, maybe if there's another animal out there, a donkey or something that ages 10 years in 1 year, I don't know. But this thing is moving really fast now. We're on pace to double again this year over last year, and we're working on a plan to do even more than that next year. I know it sounds ambitious and I know it sounds kind of crazy, but we really believe that it is possible. There's others that have come before me who have done similar things, and I spend a lot of time studying those people, studying their journey, studying the way they do stuff, looking for people who can help me cut time off of my trip. I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Roy Williams lately, and people who Roy surrounded himself with, all amazing people. One of the people I've met recently and become good friends with is Elmer Zubiata from Elmer's Plumbing, Heating and Air in San Antonio. He's also in Dallas now, but man, that guy is doing a whole lot with his business, and just being able to hang out with people like that. I went and toured his shop for a day about a month ago, and just being around someone like that is very helpful in my journey. But just learning by proximity. You get around them, you listen to them talk, you listen to them interact with their people and their key people and leaders in their business. You see how they do certain things in their business, things that we need to do that we haven't yet implemented, and it makes a big difference in the growth, the speed of growth, and the quality of growth. Growing for growth's sake really isn't a great idea, but having an idea on where you want to go and breaking it down to do that is kind of the way you want to do it. We're right now focused on growth for next year, so I'm personally focused on sales development, leadership development, and marketing development. And I know exactly how many leads we need to get next year to do a certain revenue. I know how many trucks we need to do that. I know how many technicians we need to do that. I know that we have to put in our own training center, our own technician school, so to speak, to be able to manufacture these technicians to do this work that we're going to market and sell. So there's a whole lot to it, but it can be very overwhelming. But just take one bite at a time. Just eat the elephant one bite at a time. Eat the biggest frog in your way every day, and just keep moving on. You'll eventually get there. We are right in the thick of a growth pattern. Probably going to be this way for a while. When you're growing pretty quick, it puts a lot of strain on your systems and the way you do things. So things break. They break often. You'll fix them. You'll fix them from where you're at and for the growth pattern you're on, and then you'll get to the next little stage and you'll find it'll break again, and that's okay. You have to be okay with that, and realize that on this journey, as long as you continue to grow, that the change is constant, the change is inevitable, and the change is good. It's a good sign that when something's breaking, it means you're adding a lot of stress to it, and you're adding stress because you're growing. So don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to learn. Spend time in your car. Spend every moment you have in your car. It doesn't, especially if you're commuting for work, it doesn't take away anything from your family. It doesn't take away anything from your friends. I quit pretty much. I don't hardly talk on the phone anymore when I'm driving. I don't call my friends. I don't do all that. I just listen to something that adds value to me. Being a podcast, a book. I listened to 2 books this weekend. I was on a 5.5-hour trip to Arkansas and back, and I listened to 2 books. One book was one that I re-listened to that really, listening to it for the second time really helped me to kind of pick up a lot of things that I missed the first time. So spend some time doing that. Spend some time listening. Spend some time talking to people who are in front of you in their journey. There's no real reason any of us should be making the crazy mistakes that others have made in front of us with technology, social media, networking, and all the resources that are out there now. If you're making some of these big mistakes that you don't have to make, it's because you think that you're smarter than everyone else, and you don't have to. You can be smart. You can exhibit that by learning from some of these things that someone else has already failed at. And that really, literally is a time machine. If you look at a river or a stream, actually, the best way to look at it is if you look at the arc or the time horizon of life, like in a timeline when we were in school, basically there would be a straight line, and there would be points on that line that would talk about the Civil War, the Korean War, the Gulf War, all the things. So there's a straight line and then points in time. So when you start your business journey, let's just say you started in 2000, and just from a normal learning along the course of life without really enriching yourself or meeting people or reading books or anything, you come to the 20 years later, here it is, 23 years later. Let's say you started in 2000, right here. And then here's 2023, you're here. This is just normal life, learning along the way, just bebopping through life. 23 years to go from, let's just say, 1 million to 8 million, right? Just normal, everyday, 3% growth per year or whatever. That's actually a little more than 3%, but it's not a lot, right? So what I've learned is that if that were a river, they have these things in rivers called oxbow lakes. Like a lot of rivers, like the Mississippi River, the Arkansas River, there'll be these little lakes that are horseshoe shaped, or oxbow they call them. So these rivers or these lakes that they call oxbows will be completely cut off from the river. So what happens is the river comes along, it meanders, it comes up, and it comes back down and comes around. Well, what happens is the river erodes this right here over time because it wants to take the path of least resistance and shorter. So this right here may have taken 100 years to form this through the natural river, this oxbow or this horseshoe shape, but the river finally cuts through all the way through and makes this oxbow its own lake and cuts it off completely from the river. And that's just like what I'm talking about here. So you're coming along. This may have taken 10 years to form this oxbow, but you can cut through there and cut that off and shorten your time horizon to go from 2000 to 2023. You could learn the same amount of things to go from 1 million to 8 million in 2 years, 1 year. You can learn and cut all this time off. You don't have to make this journey that someone else has already made for you. So take the time, spend some time learning in your car. I almost would rather be in my car now because I just love to learn. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of great people out there. I love Alex Hormozy because Alex is always giving out, just valuable lessons, tips. He's not really, in his content, doesn't really try and sell you anything. Old Patrick Bet-David stuff, he's on YouTube. I'm not a huge fan of his podcast now, but 5 years ago he was putting out some amazing entrepreneurial content. Really, really good stuff. If you're trying to get started, trying to solidify your foundational base with principles and things like that, go and find Patrick Bet-David's older content. Gary Vee puts out so much stuff, it's almost impossible to take it all in, but a lot of his stuff is very good. You can filter through that and find something that'll apply to where you're at. If you're in the home services space, Chris Yano's podcast is called To The Point, and Tommy Mello's podcast, The Home Service Millionaire, I believe. Both of those guys are very very big into helping others and giving of their time and resources, and I don't think I've ever listened to or watched anything that they've put out that wasn't value based for the recipient or whoever's watching it. So those are great places. Listen to books. Find a book against your shortcomings, learn something that you don't know, find a book to listen to about where you're wanting to go. I've been spending a lot of time lately reading and listening to books and whatnot against leadership. Leadership is where we're going around here these days with my business, because as we grow, our biggest blind spot and our biggest weakness, I've got two of them really, and one is training technicians to keep up with the workload, and the other is training leaders to keep up with the people that we need to hire, because the pace that we're growing and the pace that we're going to continue to grow, leadership is a big blind spot. And they say leaders are born, but you can also, I believe, help create leaders by investing in them, being a good example, investing in yourself. My people a lot of times will tell me they see, that I'm growing and learning, and they're asking me for things that will help them to learn and grow, and investing in themselves. I've been investing in my people by sending them off to do different types of training and skill sets type stuff. So invest in your people, invest in yourself most of all. If you're just sending somebody off, putting money in their pocket and telling them to go out and bring it back, and not investing in yourself too, they're going to outgrow you. You should always strive to stay in front of your people with knowledge and growth, and bring them along with you instead of sending them off to do everything and to outgrow you. So that is what advice I would give to my younger self.